let me just say that I have a very optimistic deja vu feeling, and I have to share it because it's so rare that we have deja vu moments which are optimistic. I was actually reminded of a very similar conference that Progress and Friedrich Ebert organized several years ago. It was in very difficult times for our country. We were preparing for elections. We were very optimistic, but in the same time we were aware that we have to deal with very powerful adversaries. And I will mention some of them, and you know what I mean because you have seen it around the region and in different countries. Nationalism, captured state, and controlled media. So although we were feeling that people are ready for change, we were aware of the difficulties, and sometimes looking ahead towards our elections in 2016, it was very difficult to be optimistic, and the mood for social democrats was not that great. So we had more or less the same regional setting, and everyone was complaining about how the conservatives are doing the same things, and how it's working for them, and how it is difficult to change the narrative, and how it is difficult to keep our parties united, you know, the typical problems that we face. And then I remembered, I used the liberty just as Vesna Pusic before, and I said, listen, this reminds me so much of Star Wars. And I know, I mean, it's maybe lame to repeat it again, but I said, listen, in Star Wars, the Empire looks perfect, they're powerful, they're almighty, you can never beat them, while the Republic is messy, just as democracy, just as democratic parties, but we can still prevail. And I want to remind myself of the optimism of that time, because the optimism and the hard work worked. And we were not only willing, but we were capable of actually winning over nationalism and captured state and controlled media. And there were times when we were equally messy as the Republic in Star Wars. But what we have shown, and I think that this is an important note of optimism, is that progressives, I would say social democrats, you would say liberals, and I think on these we all agree, progressives can win even when faced with powerful adversaries. And what is more important, and this is post-2016 lesson for us, progressives can really change the reality. So it's not only a winning ticket, it's a ticket that can actually deliver change. And this is where some of us progressives were not as successful in the past. So after this optimism, I think the second wave of optimism that grew on us was the fact that we have managed to change this country into a country of free media. We have managed to change this country into a state in which no one is afraid to criticize me or any other in the government, in which usually when people complain, they complain about the government, not about the opposition, which was typical in the times of captured state. We were capable to change this country beyond recognition. And that meant incredible transparency. Practically, you can click on one of the Ministry of Finance web pages, and you can see where every penny of our budget goes, which is difficult for a government because then we have to answer a lot of questions, but this is how democracy should work. We were capable to change the position of women in our society and present a normal situation in which we are heading towards elections with the pledge that we will have complete parity on electoral lists. We were capable to change the reality in a country which is extremely diverse and to say, well, we can all accept different languages and different religions, and it can actually make us much stronger for the future. And I can go on, I can go into a more social democratic field and say it was possible to increase the minimum wage by 58% and create 60,000 new jobs. So this, I think that reconvening in Skopje was a smart choice for many of the foundations. We can work and we can achieve great things. And the EU element is really the supportive role and not the dominant factor in our decision making, but it has to be there to make the process and the transformation tangible. So the only second comment that I wanted to make was another quote from Star Wars. I think it's the last one or two movies before. It finishes with the sentence, we have to keep fighting not fighting for against what we hate, but fighting to save what we love. And I think this is a message that should go well towards the European Union. We don't believe that they should be active in the Balkans because of the fears that it produces, because of the bad analogies of the past, because sometimes this web can mean web of crime and web of smuggling. This was the normal association. I do think that the EU engagement in the Balkans is necessary to fight to save the things that the EU and we love. And this is human rights, this is democracy, this is transparency, this is accepting differences, and this is tolerance. Finally, I was reminded of a text written in Serbian media a few months ago, where he said that he visited Skopje. I think it was Teofil Pančić, if I'm not mistaken. He visited Skopje, he went to the Turkish bazaar very close to this hotel, and he said, I sat there, I ordered some food, I heard 5 different languages around me, and I finally felt this is what EU should look and sound like. And this is what I think North Macedonia now has brought to the table. And this is why I think that both we and the EU can be stronger if the web is a web of progressive policies and a web of good news. Thank you.